Hello, and welcome back to your sister in elections. We are currently 12 days away from Election Day, Tuesday, the 5th of November, and on RCP polling, this is the national average. Harris is only up by 2 points. Her lead that she had going into October has rapidly decreased over the last couple of weeks from polling that has been good polling in some cases and has been bad polling in some cases, but on average, she has seen her lead shrink nationally. And in some swing states, we've also seen similar falls. Now, what I want to go into in this video is not about these polling, because so many people have already started voting. There's already been over 20 million ballots cast. I believe it is up to 22 million. I'm going to go on the NBC News tracker. Actually, it's over 28 million mail-in and early in-person votes have been cast as of 4:22 Eastern time. So what I want to do in this video is pretty much go through early voting, what it does tell us, what it doesn't tell us. And you may have heard a lot of people talking about how great this is for Republicans, how bad this is for Democrats. There's a lot being overblown at the moment because people are making comparisons between stuff that really we do not know. We are making inferences on stuff that happened 2 years ago or 4 years ago in 2020 when there were seriously different conditions and different conditions from both parties. So I just want to cover some of the information that has been said and just hopefully give people a better idea of what the early vote 12 days before the election is showing. So this is the early vote map. As you can see, the returns, this is the return things, the request things. The request is 56 million. Democrats have a 15-point advantage there. The return rate, the Democrats have a 14-point advantage at the moment, so pretty much in line with it. But that does show that, especially the others, people who registered as independents, have not yet returned their ballots, whether that be voting in person or returning their mail-in ballots. They have not really done that on a huge scale compared to the Democrats and Republicans. So the Democrats still have a lead, but that's not what people are talking about. What people are talking about is the fact that Democrats in more recent elections, particularly 2020, had huge leads, not 14-point leads. Now, we're going to come back to Pennsylvania in a second, but I just want to show you what the lead was nationally. Now, this was the total voted in person from the states that had party registration. This is kind of misleading, so I wouldn't really look at it in too much detail, but Democrats again had about a 15-point lead there for 2020. This is 2020 stats, but there's so many states here that don't actually have in-person, that don't actually have party registration. You're looking here, this is pretty much half the states that register with party registration, so this data is pretty misleading. I wouldn't look into it that much. And same with the national ballots cast, again, slightly misleading, but what I really want to get into is some of the swing state data, because people have been talking about places like Nevada, places like Arizona, places like Georgia, and saying that the Republicans have overperformed massively. And yes, they have overperformed in 2020, but there are reasons for this. Now, this is a AP article only published about 2-3 days ago. Nearly 90 million ballots cast. Of course, the closer we're going to get to the election, I'd say about the next week or so, we're going to be seeing huge amounts of early ballots being cast every day. I'd be saying close to 2 million every day, if not more, on certain days. And the real reason is because way more Republicans are voting early. However, does this mean that Democrats are going down? And what's the reason for the Republicans voting early? Of course, 2020 Trump was extremely critical of this, as well as the Republican Party as a whole. As part of their whole Stop the Steal thing, they directly blamed a lot of the mail-in ballot process, and they essentially attacked it and said it was a way in which the Democrats won the election, supposedly, in the days following Election Day. Of course, all of these claims were never substantiated and pretty much came down to he said, she said sort of thing. In court, none of it held up. So they've actually changed their messaging, funny enough, because they realised that the problem with attacking early in voting is that then means you have to rely on so many people to come out on election day. And in 2020, not enough Republicans came out on election day, which is what happened. They have since learned from that, and they learned from 2022 when they lost Senate races, which they really should have won, aka Arizona, aka Georgia, aka Pennsylvania. And realistically, the Republican Party have been a lot more pro early in-person voting, mail-in voting that is still lagging behind. But what we have seen as a result of the Republican Party now being a lot more positive, as you can see, this is a quote attributed to Trump, who was on a podcast with Dan Bongino the other week. He said, "I am telling everyone to vote early. The Republican Party want their voters to come out, especially the older voters, the high propensity voters. They want them filling in their ballots in advance so they can bank those votes and then go after the low propensity voters who they are relying on to win this election." Now, that's really interesting because what we have seen is that Republicans seem to be responding. The AP article said this was a few days ago that Republicans have about 6,000 early vote advantage in Nevada. And if you want to go back in 2020, I just want to show you what the advantage was come the end of it. Is this Nevada? That's not Nevada. Okay, now I have to go here. So yeah, the advantage in Nevada was the Democrats had a +4 advantage. This was their firewall, and this is essentially how they won Nevada. They built up massive vote counts in, it's not going to show me the counties, but in Clark County, where Las Vegas and the metro area is associated, and Washoe County in the Northwest, which is where Reno is, Carson City, that sort of area. So this is where the Democrats, had their 2020 victory. They built up huge banks of early mail-in votes that slowly came in because of the backlog and the lack of a real process or system that could handle millions of votes in such a short amount of time to set up these systems. But the Republicans are now taking advantage of these systems. And we've seen this with the early mail-in votes, such as Georgia. They're apparently leading in there. Arizona, they're definitely leading there. I want to go back on the AP article because it does just show it a bit closer. Of course, Arizona, they're leading by 5 points as of October 22nd, October 22nd. So bear in mind, this is a little behind, but pretty much this is how it is. Republicans have a 5-point vote margin there. North Carolina, Democrats only have a 2-point vote margin there. Of course, in Nevada, they're leading. Pennsylvania's an outlier. I want to go into that for a while. And then the other swing states, the vote is not registered by party, so it's all a bit of guesswork. But again, go back to Arizona. We want to see what that was looking like in 2020. The Democrats had a lead, a very narrow lead, when it came to all the early votes counted, of 0.4. But of course, at the moment, they are down by about 5-6 points. So there's clearly been a concerted effort by state Republican parties in places specifically like Nevada, in places like Arizona, where the state Republican Party has gone out and told Republican voters who always vote, your reliable voters, go out, make sure your ballots are cast now so we can focus our efforts on getting those low information, low propensity voters who are going to swing the election our way. Now, this is what the Republicans are hoping for, and you've seen a lot of people say that there's been a huge amount of Republicans, but this is what those pro people saying that are saying they're going to win all the swing states by about 3 or 4 points. It's also relying on the Republican vote share on election day to not disintegrate. However, this is something that we simply do not know. Of course, for 2020, there was a massive coronavirus pandemic going on. People were scared to go out and vote. That was true. And people were scared to go out and vote on election day when there was going to be huge crowds and huge queues, all that stuff. People didn't want to do it, specifically the Democrats, because they actively warned against it. Remember, Biden campaigned from his basement for about 2 months during the summer. And this is what we're really, going up against, because the conditions are extremely different from 2020 and from 2022 when people slowly started to shift, particularly the Democrats, from early votes. Of course, the Democrats still do have an advantage, but their advantage simply isn't as big. And we do not know whether this is Democrats just not voting in general, not excited or ready to vote, or whether, enthusiasm is just down with the Democrats. We simply do not know that. People are making inferences from 2020 and comparing everything to them, but we simply cannot compare. We are in simply different scenarios. So I just want to make that clear that this could actually be a really good sign for Republicans. They could have a strong showing on election day. Their election day vote may not be decimated. It will go down a bit, no doubt about that, because a lot of people who typically would have voted on election day had been voting now. But they may, like they said, they might be able to get those low propensity voters out in huge numbers, and they will win the election if that is the case. However, we do not know if the Democrats are just waiting for election day now. We simply do not know this information, and I do think it's extremely premature to decide, especially in like Nevada. I want to show the Nevada Independent blog. John Ralston is doing a really good job on this, and he's just showing that this is worrying for Democrats if they do not get their voters out. But in Nevada, the statewide turnout, we still have 25% of others in Nevada. Of course, this was last evening. I think the numbers are a bit. Republicans are about 4 points up, 5 points up. It's shrunk a bit because there's been some mail-in ballots come in, but it's pretty much a 4-point margin in favor of the Republicans in Nevada. However, we are ignoring the others, and specifically in Nevada, they have historically, of course this could change, historically the independent registered voters have been younger voters who have not had to register with a specific party, and they tend to skew more to the Democrat side. But this is just going off historical data. Of course, there's no way in hell of knowing what they actually will vote for. So I just want to keep this in mind when you look at all this early voting and you see people say that, this is great signs for Republicans and Democrats. Yes, it could be, but this is all just guesswork, and people are just going to use the data to fuel their own arguments, fuel their own narrative. And the narrative at the moment is that Donald Trump is going to win the election because of the way that the polling has trended, because of the way this early voting is going out. So people are pretty much using it for that. But it could just be that Democrats are tending to not vote in the numbers that they used to. So I just want to make it very clear to everyone that we do not know how this election at the presidential level is going to go. Republicans have a strong advantage in the Senate. The House is also a toss-up. But though we're also seeing some poll that comes out in bellwether counties in Pennsylvania, in New York, look very promising for Democrats. So if you just want to balance it out and say that in the places the Democrats are having to win in toss-up regions in certain states that they have to win, they're doing quite well. And that balances out some of the pro-Republican arguments, but either side could be right, either side could be wrong. We're going to have to wait and see. At least we're going to have to wait and see another week or so to see what the final numbers are, to see if Democrats are holding out some of their mail-in votes in places like Nevada, in places like Georgia, where the mail-in votes is really, really low at the moment, historically low. We have to see if Democrats are going to, go on a massive surge in the next week or so before we can make any definitive calculations based on early voting on its own. So I hope you enjoyed that video. I'm going to be doing my predictions. I'm going to be doing another presidential prediction during the weekend, so watch out for that. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all again very soon.